Sri Krishna Arpanam Mastu Shubham Bhuyat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. Hari Om to all of you. We are now in the final chapter of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, which is the longest chapter in Bhagavad Gita, containing 78 verses. And there is very one important topic, because it is the concluding chapter. Krishna takes the majority of the verses in this chapter 18 to emphasize on one very, very important topic. And that topic is the topic of karma or action. So you may ask, why is action so important? Karma. From the day we are born till the day we give up this mortal body, what is it that we cannot avoid doing? That is karma. And if karma, according to the Gita, if it is not done in the proper manner, karma will lead to what? What will your actions lead to? If it is not done with the right attitude, what will karma lead to? Before that, what will your actions lead to? Karma phalam, right? First, there must be a fruit of the action. So look at the whole cycle now. If you do not know what is the right method of performing actions, your karma will lead to karma phalam. And that karma phalam can be punyam, it can be papam, correct? And because it is punyam and papam, it will lead to punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. And when you come back again and you still don't understand the right philosophy of karma, again you make the same mistake. Again you get karma phalam. Again there's punyam papam. Again there is punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. So action is the cause of our whole repeated births. Wrong action, I must add. Now, can we give up action? You can say that, okay, if action is causing me to take subsequent births, why not I just give up all action? Is that possible? Krishna says that also is not possible. So sannyas, sometimes we think sannyas is the best thing because I give up all my responsibilities, I give up all my duties, I go to an ashram. I give up everything. I surrender my possessions. I give up my duties. I go to ashram. If you are an accountant in your worldly life, when you go to the ashram, what is the first question they ask you? What is your profession? If you say you're an accountant, then they say, very good, come and do accounts for the ashram. So fact is, you cannot run away from the accounts. And in the ashram, you have a guru. You have to do seva to the guru. In the ashram, there are devotees who come to the ashram. You have to look after the devotees. Their food must be provided, prasad must be provided. So whatever it is, you cannot give up action. Even if you say, never mind, let me go to the forest, you still cannot give up action. You got to maintain this physical body, is it not? This body needs food, it needs water. You still have to go hunting for food, or as Renounce said, you have to go house to house begging for food. So there is no way you can give up action. This is what the Bhagavad Gita is saying, right? What did Arjuna want to do? He wanted to run away from the battlefield and become a monk, a renunciate. But Krishna said, no. It is not the place where you are staying, whether you stay in a house or ashram. It is not the clothes that you are wearing, whether you wear normal clothes or you wear a what you call outfit of a sannyasi. The most important is your mindset. So if you do actions with the right attitude, Is there karma phalam? If you follow the philosophy of the Gita and do the right action with right attitude, is there karma phalam? Yes or no? Huh? No, there's no karma phalam. And if there's no karma phalam, there's no punyam papam. If there's no punyam papam, is there punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam? So you have broken the whole cycle of birth and death. How? Just by understanding the philosophy of right action. So that's why Krishna emphasizes the majority of these verses in chapter 18 for the path of right action. And it all began with a question from Arjuna that between sanyasa and between tyaga, is there any difference? Verse 1, chapter 18. Between sanyasa and between tyaga, is there any difference? Because the word sanyasa means to give up. The word tyaga means to give up also. But is there a difference? So, first of all, Krishna answers in verses 2 and 3 and tells him the four different views that were prevalent at that time, during those times. What is sanyasa? What is tyaga? Verse 2, Krishna said, some learned people say sanyasa means giving up all actions which are driven by selfish motives. So, looking after family, selfish motive, give up that action. Want to set up a new business, selfish motive, give up that action. Literally, give up all selfish actions. Only do actions to maintain this body and to serve the world. So, that is formal sannyasa. Practically, you leave everything and take formal sannyasa. Then Krishna said, another group of people believe that tyaga is giving up doing all actions. You are a householder, you have to look after your family, you have to go to work, everything you have to do, go ahead and do. But what must you give up? Give up the fruits of your action, which means what? Giving up fruits of your action, meaning consider yourself as an instrument in the hands of the Lord, discharge all your actions for the Lord, and accept all results as Ishvara Prasadam. Everything is coming from the Lord. So that is tyaga. But that is what other people say. Krishna is saying this is what is said by the learned people of that time. Verse 3 he said, other thinkers say, no, give up all action, because every action has got punyam and papam. So give up all actions. That is the third philosophy. Fourth group of people in verse 3 say, yajna, dana, tapa, don't give up these three. You can give up everything else, but don't give up yajna, dana, tapa. Okay. Now Krishna says, now you listen to what is my definition of giving up. Okay. So in verses of verse 5, he said very important. That's very important. In verse 5, chapter 18, he says, three actions every human being must never give up. That is yajna, dana, tapaha. What is yajna? Yajna is all the prayers and rituals that we do to thank the Lord for whatever He has blessed us with. That is yajna. Dana is our service to those who are less fortunate, giving charity in different ways. And tapa is to discipline our senses and our mind. So, why did Krishna say these three things are important? He says, Pavanani Manishinam. For the human beings, Yajna, Dana, Tapa give us purity of mind. So, right now, as human beings who are involved in the world, we have so many impurities in the mind: ego, anger, greed, envy, jealousy, etc. By performing Yajna, Dana, Tapa in the right way, in the right attitude, which he explained in chapter 17, if you remember, he told us a satvic way of doing yajna, satvic way of doing dhanam, satvic way of doing tapa. If you follow that, you will purify your mind. And after you purify your mind, what do? You come to knowledge. You come to jnana yoga. And with jnana yoga, you meditate and you attain moksha. So the whole pathway is very clear. So now he told us in the next verses, that is verses 7, 8, and 9, that there are three types of renunciation. So even if you want to renounce, if you want to practice yajna, dana, tapa, we must practice the satvic way. So the wrong way to do all our actions or to renounce our actions, in verse 7, Krishna said the tamasic way, the tamasic person gives up all actions because of his ignorance. He doesn't know what is right action, what is wrong action. He doesn't know that the purpose of doing action is to attain purity of mind, but because of his ignorance, because of his laziness, because of his procrastination, he just avoids doing actions. He gives up duties and responsibilities. He runs away from that. That type of running away from your duties and responsibilities, Krishna says, is tamasic renouncement. And tamasic renouncement will only bring your spiritual downfall. Will it give you purity of mind? It won't give you purity of mind. It will only give you degradation. It will bring you down. Then in verse number 8, he told us about rajasic renouncing. People who give up, but they give up their duties and responsibilities under what condition? They find it troublesome, they find it difficult to do, they find it bothersome. So, like children abandoning their parents at old age because they find it troublesome, that is giving up duties influenced by rajasic gunas. So, one should never give up any duties which are challenging, which even though they are difficult to do, they cause you some pain and some inconvenience, you have to do it. Why do you have to do it? Why do you have to do it? Huh? Purify the mind, exactly. So if you run away from these duties, you are not going to attain purification of mind. So what is the right way? Krishna said in verse number 9, satvic renunciation is obligatory action, whatever is your duty, depending on your stage of life, okay, as a bachelor, as a married man, etc. Also in the house, you have different duties. In the office, you have different duties. Take up all these obligatory duties and give up the attachment and fruit. That alone is regarded as satvic, what we call satvic renunciation. Satvic renunciation. So now let us understand a little bit what is the difference between sanyasa and tyaga. Tyaga means as a householder, you do all your actions, whatever actions you do, but renounce the fruit of your action, right? What does that lead to? Purity of mind. Once there's purity of mind, then comes in sanyasa. What is sanyasa? Sanyasa is when you dedicate your time to study of the scriptures, to meditation, and then you attain moksha. So the Lord has said in earlier chapters that you don't have to leave your household just to go and take sannyasa, because sannyasa is a state of the mind. So remaining as a householder, do all your duties, surrender the fruits to the Lord, attain purity of mind, then you reduce your activities in the world, reduce your social activities, spend more time on meditation and reading the scriptures. That is the path of sannyasa. And then you would consider yourself not as the body, you consider yourself as the soul, as the witness to all your actions. That means you have reached the stage of sannyasa. You still do your duties, you still perform all your actions, but you are no more engaged, you're totally detached from all your actions. That is the stage of sannyasa. That can be attained while you are a householder. So now today's verse we will carry on where Krishna continues to describe what is the most important things about his action. So what happens to a person who practices renunciation of action, a tyagi, who is a householder, who's practicing renunciation of action? What is the nature of such a person? Now, why does he tell us all this? So, as a householder, we can know, we can check ourselves, and we can know whether we are performing the actions in the right manner. So, this is a whole guideline, a guidebook for us how to perform actions and what is the result when we perform the right actions in the right manner. Okay, so let us look at verse number 10. Verse number 10. Now, what happens when the duty is pleasant? When we find by doing certain duties, I find a lot of happiness, I find a lot of joy in doing it. What happens? I get attached to that duty. I look forward to doing that duty. And on the other hand, what happens when I'm faced with challenging duties, difficult duties that require a lot of my time, my effort, and it's not easy for me to do? I try to run away from it. But a one who is truly renounced the fruit of the action, what is his nature here? The Lord says, such a person, na dveshti, he does not hate, he does not avoid. What does he not avoid? Akushalam karma. Akushalam karma means unpleasant duties. So we should never ever, you see, our problem is we categorize our duties according to what is pleasant and what is not pleasant. And what is pleasant, we run forward to it. What is not pleasant, we run away from it. But here he's saying, if you are a true tyagi, if you are a true renunciate, you must not hate any of your duties which are akushalam karma, which are unpleasant duties. You must not shun them out of discomfort. You must not get angry or upset at doing your duties also. Don't, you see, one is we do our duties, we do the duty, but inside we grumble and get angry. And that also is wrong. Because if you consider it your duty, inside you should not be grumbling and getting frustrated and angry. So both are important. Doing the duty and not getting upset and grumbling about it. So that is the first quality. Second quality, na anusajjate. The person does not become attached to what? Kushale. Kushale means pleasant duties. So even you find their pleasant duties, it doesn't mean that you must get attached to them. So the duty is a duty. You don't categorize it as pleasant or unpleasant. It is a duty. And at the back of my mind, I must always remind myself one thing, that when I do my duties with the right attitude, without my mind getting disturbed, that is when I get purity of mind. Otherwise, I will never attain that purity of mind. If I do the duty with grudgingly, getting angry, getting frustrated, I am not attaining the purity of mind. So, such a tyagi does not run away from difficult duties and does not get attached to pleasant duties. So, what happens now? He tells us here. What happens if you really follow this formula? In the next half of the verse, he tells us, such a tyagi, such a renunciate, sattva sam avishta, his mind gets fully imbibed with inner perfection, which is what? Purity of mind. If you follow this course of action with the right attitude, meeting all your challenges in life, you will get inner perfection, which means purity of mind. Okay. Now, what happens when we say purity of mind? Satvic gunas get more and more and more stronger. Our rajasic and tamasic gunas get more and more weaker. This is what is happening. By your actions, you are converting your gunas, you are making your satvic gunas happy. Every time you face a challenge in life, a challenging duty, just pray to the Lord to give you strength and carry on your duties. As you go on, you'll find your mind getting purer, your mind getting stronger because of the sattvic gunas rising in you. And the rajasic and tamasic gunas will slowly, what we call, will fall away. Okay. So what happens? What happens when your mind gets more and more pure? Your mind gets more and more sattvic. Then the Lord adds in the next quality that comes in. What is the next quality? Medhavi. Medhavi means you start getting a thirst for spiritual knowledge. The mind itself wants to know more and more about God, more and more about religion. So sometimes we ask ourselves, why is it I cannot understand the scriptures? I find it so difficult. Why? Because your mind has not been purified. As long as you have anger, ego, greed, jealousy, pride, it will not be easy for you to concentrate your mind on the scriptures. So that path of action is very important. Your attitude to the action is very important. So purify the mind, then you become a medhavi. Medhavi means you become an enlightened person. You start gathering this knowledge. And not only listening, but you find that you're able to absorb this knowledge. You're able to remember it. And what is the biggest advantage when you absorb this knowledge? What is the biggest advantage? If you're able to receive is one thing, but if you're able to absorb the knowledge, what is the biggest advantage? The biggest advantage is you're able to apply it in your life. Because otherwise, you just listen to it, but then you forget about it. But when your mind is pure, you're able to absorb the knowledge. And then the knowledge comes useful to you when you meet situations in life, you're able to recall and apply the knowledge. And thus, Krishna says also you get another benefit with this knowledge. What is that? Chinna samshaya. You become free from doubts. All the questions you had in your mind, only ignorance can only be cleared through what? Through knowledge. So as you get knowledge, all your doubts, all your confusion, all the questions you had in your mind, slowly one by one they get eradicated, they get answered. So there is clarity in your mind. What is your goal in life? What is your direction in life? And where did all this start from? Where did all this start from? How did you become an enlightened person? How did you clear all the doubts in your mind? Huh? Starting from karma yoga. So the first step, the most important step is you got to perfect karma yoga. So becoming a renunciate, you see there are a lot of terms used in the Gita. You don't get confused. Karma yoga is tyaga, is renunciation of your fruit of the action. So what is karma yoga? It is renunciation of the fruit of your action, is one and the same thing. So a tyagi is a karma yogi, is one and the same. It's just different terminology used. Okay? So you become very clear in your goals in life. And this is what Krishna is stressing. And again, I point out to you why action is so important. If you go back to chapter 4, verse 17. Okay, go back to chapter 4, verse 17. There, Krishna made one statement, very important statement. That's on page 186. 86. He said, chapter 4, verse 17, page 86. The truth about action must be known. What is right action? It's not just simply you go and do charity, you think that is right action. There is some deep meaning in it. And truth of prohibited action also must be known. And third thing is what is inaction also must be known. So there is action, prohibited action, and inaction. Then he says the very beautiful line, Gahana karmano gati. Action, the means or the process of action is very, what we call, very mysterious. It's not easy to understand. Now, Krishna is saying mysterious are the ways of action. It is not easy to understand. And especially sometimes we see one person, very pious, very religious, going to temples, goes and do seva, does a lot of charitable work. But we see that fellow always suffering. Every time we see him suffering. He doesn't have much money. He lives in a small house. He has a motorcycle for transport. On the other side, we see one fellow who is conning everybody. He's a big con man. Gets a lot of money, builds a big bungalow, swimming pool, drives a nice luxury car. Now we look at it, we say, this fellow is doing all the good action. Why is he suffering? That fellow is doing all the wrong things, but he is enjoying life. So we get confused. So that's why Krishna says, mysterious are the ways of action. You have to understand the true nature of action. So we think that by giving up everything and going to the what we call forest or cave is the right solution. But Swami Vivekananda wrote very beautifully in one of his texts. He wrote, he who goes off to the Himalayas to meditate and die there has lost his way. He's condemning that. He's saying, he who goes off to the Himalayas to meditate and die there, he has lost his way. Then he says, he who foolishly plunges into the world to seek pleasures and luxuries of life has also lost his way. Now you say, Swami, what to do now? You say, go to the world, also problem. Leave everything, go to Himalaya, also problem. Then what is the right way? So then he writes, the right way to live your life is to divinize your life. Okay, what do you mean by divinize your life? He says, bring God into everything that you do. Whatever action you do, recognize the presence of God there. Whatever results you receive, recognize the presence of God there. Everywhere and in everything that you do, your whole totality, live in the essence of the devotion of God. You already divinize your life already. You don't have to go to Himalayas to divinize your life. So it is through your actions, and that's why yajna, dana, tapaha is a way for us to divinize all our actions. Do these actions dedicated to the Lord, you divinize all your actions. So we must never think of running away from our duties and our work also. So now we may ask the question, that is the case, we shouldn't go to the Himalayas or give up, become a sannyasi. Now what about Adi Shankaracharya? When he was born, when he reached a certain age, he told his mother, I want to take sannyasa. Very young age, I think it was 17 if I'm not mistaken. Was he 13? Oh, is it younger somehow? Okay, 13 somehow. But mother didn't want to let him go. Because son, so much of attachment, don't want to let him go. And then one day he was taking a bath in the river, a crocodile caught hold of him. And he started crying. So the mother came and she also was helpless, don't know what to do. And then Shankara told her, mother, if you agree to let me go off and become a sannyasi, this crocodile will release me. She said, okay, go and take sannyas. Immediately the crocodile released him and went off. So then he started his journey of sannyas at a very young age. And he passed away at a very young age of, I think, 32, was it? 32. So now the question we ask ourselves, so many great people, they didn't go through the family life. They immediately took up sannyasa. There are so many other sages also. Then why is sannyasa wrong? Or why did these people not go through the family life and then go and take sannyasa? So the answer is this. The answer is, you can have already reached that state of purification in your past life. You have already gone through karma yoga in your past life. You already purified yourself. When you take birth here again, you don't have to go back again. So you have already reached that state of purification. You're ready to let go everything and take up sannyasa. But that is only an exception. Very few people can have this kind of motivation. It doesn't mean that all of us going to follow this kind of path. We can also, and according to Gita, we can also attain moksha by being a householder, provided we get this mind corrected. That is most important. So this is what Krishna says in verse 10. Then he also mentions, now he comes to verse number 11. Now, if you remember earlier, he said some of the learned people at that time said, give up all actions because all actions produce punyam and papam. So give up all actions. But Krishna refutes such a what we call such a path, that to give up all actions is not the right way. So he says here, karmani na sakhyam. It is not possible to tyaktum, to give up all actions. There is no way any human being can give up all actions. Aseṣṭhāna means completely give up actions and do nothing. Because as I mentioned earlier, and here he uses the word deha prita. Deha prita means as long as we have a body, we have to maintain this body. Minimum, we need some food, we need water, we need shelter, we need clothing. So in order for that also, you have to go and do some action. Either you go and work, start a business, or if you want to be a sannyasi, you have to go door to door and beg for food also. So there is no way that anybody can, what you call, avoid action. It's not possible. And again, when we are born, we start cultivating a lot of likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha. So it is not easy for us to just give up action because we still are so attached to this body. So the first thing is we do actions to get detached from this body. Once we are detached from the body, then we can minimize our actions and spend more time in meditation and study of the scriptures. So he says, on the other hand, instead of giving up actions, which is the wrong path to go, Krishna says in this verse here, he says, karma phala tyagi, on the other hand, one who performs all the actions but gives up the fruit of the action, he says such a person is the right renounce, practices the right renunciation. So one must never think of running away from duties, giving up actions, and thinking that you are going to attain a state of what you call sanyasa. The only way to attain the state of sanyasa is to do your actions but give up the fruits of your actions also. And now we have to understand that there is always attachment to action. And why when there's an attachment to action, why do we get this attachment to action? Because action comes with expectations. There's always expectations. And when that expectation does not meet, the result does not meet our expectations, our mind gets disturbed. So we have to understand that once we surrender only to the Lord, then there are no more expectations. Whatever it is, we accept it as Ishvara Prasadam. So in the very next verse, Krishna explains to us what is it that causes this disturbance in our mind. And then he says in the verse number 12, he says, one who doesn't atyagi nam, okay, tyagi is one who has renounced the fruit of the action. So atyagi nam is one who is attached to the fruits of the action. So remember I said earlier, if you perform your karmas, okay, do you know first what is the difference between karma and karma yoga? One is karma, which is action. You're performing action. But here in Gita, they've introduced karma yoga. You added in one more word, yoga. So what is the difference between karma and karma yoga? What is the difference? So karma yoga is action with the right attitude, which means surrender to the Lord. And what is karma? Driven by desires, ego, anger, jealousy, etc. So karma is actions driven by selfish, what we call attitude. Karma yoga is same action. You do the same action, but you surrender to the Lord. So atyagi here refers to the karma, who is doing all actions but attached to the results. So now, who is the most lowest person who performs action? The most, see, I sent you the notes today if you refer to your notes. What is the lowest level of action that we can perform? Huh? Tamasic, right? Because he said a tamasic person gives up action out of ignorance. So a tamasic person not only what we call suffers himself, but he also endangers others also by giving up his actions, right? Just like a father who abandons his family, doesn't look after his family. So tamasic action is the lowest. Then the next step is what? Rajasic action. That is giving up actions out of fear or difficulty or what you call inconvenience. Then higher than that is satvic action, right? Pure action. No, but before that, before the satvic action, in between that, there is one more. That is atyagi. Atyagi means he does all his actions, he takes care of all his responsibilities, but he's attached to the fruits of his action. He expects something from that. So when you expect something now, Krishna tells us what happens now. He says, atyagi nam, the one who does not renounce the fruit of the actions, who has a lot of rajas and tamas in him, okay? Phalam karmana bhavati. The phalam, the fruit of his actions, phalam karmana, the fruit of his actions, bhavati accrues when pretya after death. So if you're attached to your actions now, right, you have expectations from your actions, you have karma phalam. This karma phalam is carried forward to your next life after death. He's saying that bhavati pretya after death. And what type of fruit can you get? Krishna says trividam. There is a possibility of three types of results that you can get. What are the three types of results? He says here, one is anishtam, which means negative, harmful. So the next birth is going to be very painful, difficult birth. You will have a lot of problems, financial, health problems, etc. Anishtam. Or ishtam. Ishtam means favorable. You may be born in a rich family, etc., healthy body, etc. Or the third possibility is mishram, which is partly good, partly bad. Okay. So he's saying now it is up to you. If you perform all actions with some expectations, then you can expect these three things, either good, bad, or mixed. Right? So, which will come in the next life. But he says, na kvachit, it will not occur for a sannyasi. The one who renounces the fruit of the action will not be subject to this karma phala. So it is very clear now, the choice is in your hands. Whether you perform every action with some expectation or you perform actions with no expectation. Now again, many people get confused. They say, if I have to perform an action, that means I don't have any goal. I shouldn't have any goal. If I don't have a goal, then I don't have expectation. So should I have no goals in life? So what is the difference between goal and expectations? Should we not have any goals in life then? I just go out the house, I don't know whatever I'm doing, I just carry on. Whatever God gives me, I take it. I don't have any goal. I get in my car, I drive, I don't know where I'm going. I got no goal, no destination. So we have to understand you can have goals in life. That is not a problem. Of course, you must have goals in life. I want to set up a new business. I want to get a master's. I want to travel and see this country. No problem. But where does the problem happen? Huh? Right? So, huh? The result will happen, right? You have a goal, the result will happen. Then what is the problem? How does it affect? How does it affect us? You see, I have a goal. When I perform the action, I already have a goal. Otherwise, I won't perform the action. I have a goal, I perform the action. then comes a result. The result does not affect me because I've surrendered to the Lord. Then I'm okay. My mind is at peace. I have a goal. The result does not meet my goal, but it does not disturb my mind. I'm okay. I have a goal. The result does not meet my goal. It disturbs my mind. That's where my problem starts. So he says, if you have that, you're not able to handle the fruits of the results, that is when the problem starts. So having goals is not wrong, but when the result disturbs you, that's when the problem starts. And that's why he says there will be either good, bad, or mixed, which will be accrued after death. Okay. So therefore he says, but if you renounce the fruits of your actions, then you are not at all affected at all by the good, the bad, or the mixed results also. Okay. So now we come to the next verse here. Yeah. Sorry, repeat that again. So one you're saying one is karma and one is karma yoga, right? No, law of karma only applies when you do not surrender your actions to the Lord. Then the law of karma applies because then you accrue the good, the bad, and the mix, right? So the law of karma operates because then you go back to chapter 2, verse 47. What did he say? Karman eva adhikaraste. Your right is to do action. Na paleshu, you have no right to the fruits of the action. Meaning, not that you won't get the fruits of the action, but you are not at all disturbed by the results of your action. So you've surrendered everything to the Lord. So the law of karma will apply if you have not surrendered the fruits to the Lord. Okay, surrender the fruits of the action. So now we come up to the next verse 13 now. In the next verse 13, this is where Krishna starts to describe more deeply about action for us to understand how to analyze our action. So in verse number 13, he says, Nibodha me, learn from me now. Now Krishna is telling, listen to me attentively, because he's going to explain more about the process of action, about process of karma yoga. Okay, he says, Pancha karanani siddhaye sarva karmani. Sarva karmani, to accomplish, siddhaye means to accomplish all your actions, whether spiritual or worldly actions. There are pancha karananis, there are 5 causes that affect all our actions. So these 5 elements we must understand very clearly, because it's not just one element, but there are 5 elements that are affecting our actions also. Okay. So what are they? He says, Proktani, they are also mentioned. They have been already, it is not Bhagavad Gita is not some fresh new knowledge. Krishna is not suddenly creating something new. Everything, whatever he's saying in the Bhagavad Gita relates back to the Vedas. Okay. And he keeps on referring to that. In fact, just now when we recited chapter 15, you remember verse 15? Chapter 15, verse 15, he says what? I am the author of the Vedas, I am the knower of the Vedas. So the origin of the Vedas is there, cannot be disputed. Gita cannot go against the teachings of the Vedas. So here also Krishna says, what I'm about to tell you, Proktani, have been spoken about in Samkhya. So the word Samkhya here refers to the Vedantic scriptures, the 4 Vedas. So whatever he's going to tell us has already been told at the beginning of creation. But which part of the Vedas speak about actions? So he uses the word here, kritante. Kritante means at the end or the termination of the Vedas. What is the end of the Vedas? What is the beginning and what is the end of the Vedas? Huh? Vedanta is the end of the Vedas. But what's another name it is known as? Huh? It's known as Upanishads also, you're correct. But just know, Jnana Kanda. Okay? Karma Kanda is the beginning part of the Vedas. This is at the termination of the Vedas, the end of the Vedas. Okay? So they have been mentioned about all these which are the cause. So it means actually Kritante here means when he says the termination of action, he's actually referring to the what we call the action, the karma kanda of the Vedas. Okay, that come towards the end before the jnana kanda starts. So jnana kanda is basically knowledge. Karma kanda consists of all our actions, our duties, our responsibilities. Okay, so the Lord is saying that I'm going to impart to you the knowledge which is contained in the jnana kanda. Okay, because jnana kanda teaches us how to overcome our actions, not get entangled in our actions. Okay, so now what does the jnana kanda say? Basically, jnana kanda is same as Upanishads and same as jnana yoga. Okay, now what does it say? Basically, it says that our body consists of two components. Okay, one component now Krishna is going to describe as the five causes of action. That is one component. In our scriptures, that is called prakriti or matter. Okay. The other component is called consciousness or atman. So our body is a mixture of matter plus consciousness. Okay. Now, who is performing all actions? If we are a mixture of matter and consciousness, who is performing all the actions? Is it consciousness or is it matter? Who's performing? Matter is performing all actions. Under what guideline is matter performing all actions? Because all of us are made of the same matter: ether, air, fire, water, earth. Okay, all of us have the same composition. But why do we all behave and act differently? The three gunas, exactly. And where are the three gunas? Are they in matter or are they in consciousness? Three gunas are in matter. Consciousness is pure. So, matter causes us to perform all actions guided by the three gunas, depending on which guna is predominant. And what is the role of the consciousness? Huh? Is a weakness, but what is the role of the consciousness in our body? It enlivens the body. Without consciousness, can the body work? It cannot perform. So you need consciousness to be there to enliven the body, meaning eyes, hands, etc., to function. But why do they function in a different way? Is because of the three gunas. Okay, is that clear? Okay. Now the question is, therefore, without consciousness, matter cannot function. So now, if you say, I am matter, I am this body. If you say, I am this body, I'm Mr. So and so, I'm the husband of so and so, I'm the manager in this company, and you perform all actions considering yourself as this body, what happens? What happens? Because you have two choices. Can you be both at the same time? Can you be consciousness and matter? Can you have two identities? Because matter is temporary, consciousness is eternal. Matter is constantly changing. Consciousness is not subject to any change. So you cannot be matter and consciousness. Either you are subject to change or you are non-changing. So if you say I am matter and you perform all your actions, what happens? What happens? If you say that you are this body and you perform all actions, then what happens? Then that is what is called the ego. So you're performing all actions, identifying yourself as a body, that is called ego. And because of that, you incur all the karma palam and the punyam or papa. But the minute you say, I am consciousness, I am not this body, I am only a witness in this body, and the body is performing the actions, but you are totally detached, then you are at all not affected by the punyam and the papa. So, this is basically what Krishna is trying to tell us here. So, in verse 14, he tells us what are the 5 causes of action. What is it that causes our action? So now he says the first cause of all your action is adhiṣṭhānam. Adhiṣṭhānam means this gross body. Okay, you need a gross body to perform all actions. So number 1 is the gross body. Second component that he identifies here is called the kartā or the doer. The doer is the one I told you about. When you identify with the body, you become the doer. Aham kartā, which means I am the body, I identify with it, I am the doer. So I say, I am doing this, I only did this, I give donation here, I did all the seva. That I-ness is the kartā. Okay. Third is, the Lord says, karanam pratakvidam. Karanam pratakvidam means all the various equipment that we need to do our actions, hand, legs, etc., etc. Okay, the various equipment that we need to perform actions. Okay, our vocal cords, etc., eyes, and all this. Next is ceṣṭā vividas pratak. Ceṣṭā vividas pratak here means actually here it refers to the physiological functions. What are the physiological functions? There are 5 physiological functions that support this body. They are the incoming breath, the outgoing breath, the circulation of the blood, the digestive process. So in Sanskrit it is given to us as prana. You may have heard this: prana, apana, samana, vyana, udana. They are the physiological functions. Okay. And then what else he says? Now all 4 is there. Okay. Your body, your equipment, your the kartā, the doer. Then he calls the 5th one as the panchamam daivam. That is a divine factor, the 5th factor. Now, what is this divine factor? There are many explanations to it. One is, you see, our eyes are gross, okay? But it is said that every organ in our body has got a presiding deity. So the eyes are enlivened by a deity. The ears are enlivened by a different deity. Your hands are enlivened by a different deity. So there must be these deities there to bless all your organs, then only your body can function. This is known as the 5th factor. Some people call it as luck. If you don't believe in God, some people call it as luck. Some people call it as your prarabdha karmas. See, you see, you want to do all the action with your body, you set out to do something, but because of your past actions, you know what is prarabdha, right? I've explained to you all what is prarabdha. How many of you don't know what's prarabdha? Okay, all know, very good. So prarabdha, the actions which are performed in the past life, but the fruit is now being felt in this life, they can influence your actions also. So you want to do this, but because of prarabdha, it deflects your action. So this is what is called the 5th factor. Now, all these 5 factors are there which cause us to perform actions. What is not mentioned there? What is missing there? God's grace. No, no. What else? What is missing here? I just told you earlier. What is missing here? No, that is also there. Mind, everything is there. The equipment you need to perform action. Your mind also must be functioning. Your intellect must be functioning. All that falls under these 5 factors. He says these 5 factors are responsible to perform all your action. But what is not there? Consciousness is not there. He mentions he doesn't mention consciousness, meaning consciousness does not perform any actions. Consciousness doesn't cause you to perform any actions. That Atman, that divinity in you, only enlivens you to perform. But what type of action you perform, how you perform, the consciousness is not at all responsible for it. So that thing we have to keep in mind also. Okay. So now, if these five factors are there, it is important for us, therefore, to understand these five factors, and all these five factors must be pure in order for us to perform the right actions. Now, when you perform the right actions, as I said, the fruit of that performance is a pure mind, and the pure mind leads us to knowledge. So, two very important things we must understand, he will keep on discussing, is right action and right knowledge. What is right action? What is right knowledge? These two things are very important. Okay, so now he explains from verse 15 onwards how these five components will come in and affect our actions. Okay, so what does he say about these five components? He says, Yat karma, whatever actions nara, a person, prarabhate, performs, whatever actions you perform, what do we use when we perform actions? Sharir, Van, Mano, three things. Okay, Sharir means his body, Van means our power of speech, and Manaha means the mind. We will use our mind, our speech, and our body to perform. Now, interesting thing he says that whether you perform nyayam, whether you perform good actions, righteous actions, or whether you perform viparitam, viparita means prohibited, immoral actions, he says, tasya pancha hetava, these five are the causes. So, five equipments there he's told us about. Whether we perform good or whether we perform bad, you will need these five things to perform these actions, whether it's good or bad. Okay. And as I said, what is missing from this is basically the Atman or the consciousness. So the easiest way to understand this is bulb is matter, electricity is the consciousness, right? Without electricity, the bulb will not function, but the electricity does not determine whether the bulb burns in red color or yellow color or blue color. So if you put a coloring on the bulb, supposing you put a red coloring on the bulb, electricity goes through the bulb, it gives red light. Another bulb you give blue coloring, electricity goes through, it gives you blue color. Now what does the color indicate? The bulb is matter, electricity is consciousness. What does the color indicate? Why do the different lights indicate different colors? In our life, what do they indicate? The three gunas, exactly. So generally, sattva is said to be white, rajas is said to be red, and tamas is said to be black. Later, if you go down to the Havan Kund, you can see normally the Havan Kund, they'll paint these three colors. They'll paint the red line, the black line, and the white line. So what is it signifying to us? Whenever you go and perform these fire ceremonies, notice how they paint the three colors around the Havan Kund. So these three colors signify the three gunas. But why are they painted on this Havan Kund? Why the three colors representing the three gunas? What is the significance of it? Huh? You go from tamasic to rajasic, satvic, and then after that, you have to transcend all the three gunas. So by offering into the fire to the Lord, offering and surrendering all my actions, I'm transcending all the three gunas. So that is the allegorical significance. So we'll come back again next week and we'll proceed on to understand more about this karma, about actions. Okay, we end with the prayer. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं